Hey everyone, get ready, because today we're diving into something I know a lot of you are really interested in.
Yeah.
Building habits that actually, stick.
Yeah.
You guys have sent in some awesome research on psychology and neuroscience.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, to be honest, it's pretty mind-blowing. We're talking about really using the power of your brain to make real changes that last.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So are you ready to kind of dig into the science behind unbreakable habits?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Okay, cool.
Let's start with a framework that's become really popular,
Okay.
the habit loop,
Okay.
which was made famous by Charles Duhigg. He kind of breaks down habit formation into these three key stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So imagine this.
Okay.
You walk into your kitchen
Yeah.
and you see a plate of freshly baked cookies just sitting there on the counter.
Okay.
That's your cue.
Okay.
That's the trigger that kicks off the whole process.
Oh, I can relate to that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So the routine is the actual behavior. So in this case, reaching for the cookie and taking a bite.
Okay.
And then comes the reward.
Yeah.
That delicious sugary rush that tells your brain, hey, that was awesome. Let's do that again.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like a cue, routine, reward. Sounds so simple.
It is a really powerful framework, but it's only part of the story.
Okay.
What's really interesting is how different parts of your brain work together to create these automatic behaviors.
Yeah.
And we're talking about
what parts?
the basal ganglia and the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, those sound familiar. Give me a little refresher on those two brain regions.
So think of the basal ganglia as your brain's autopilot.
Okay.
It loves efficiency.
Right.
Thrives on automating tasks, making them effortless and almost subconscious.
That's why well-established habits feels so natural.
Exactly. Like brushing your teeth or driving a car.
Right.
You don't even think about it. You just do it.
Exactly. You just do it.
Yeah.
But then we have the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is more like your conscious pilot.
Okay.
It's involved in decision-making, planning, and willpower.
Okay, so that's the one we're calling on when we're trying to break a bad habit or start a good one.
Right. But the prefrontal cortex, it's a bit of a diva. Oh. It gets tired really easily. And relying just on willpower to force these new habits is exhausting.
It is.
And let's be honest, it often leads to failure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's why so many of us struggle to stick with it, We're wearing out our poor prefrontal cortex.
Exactly. You're wearing it out.
Okay.
So instead of relying solely on willpower, which is like trying to climb a mountain without any gear, we need to be smarter
about how we approach this.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
How do we get these two to work together instead of battling it out?
So that's where the habit loop comes back in.
Okay.
It's about strategically using those cues, optimizing your routines, and making those rewards actually satisfying.
So we're working with our brain's natural wiring, not against it.
Exactly.
Like that.
By understanding how these neural pathways are formed and strengthened, we can essentially, hack our brains to make those lasting changes.
All right. I'm officially on board with this brain hacking plan.
Okay.
But let's get real for a second.
Yeah.
How long does it actually take to build a new habit?
Yeah.
I've heard everything from 21 days to a year.
Yeah.
What's the truth?
Well, that old 21 days to form a habit myth has been pretty much debunked.
Oh.
Research suggests it's more like 66 days on average.
66 days. Okay, so that's manageable.
Yeah.
2 months, I can do that.
Yeah, but here's the catch.
Yeah.
It can really vary, quite a bit, depending on the complexity of the habit.
Right.
And most importantly, your consistency.
Gotcha.
So some habits might take just a few weeks.
Right.
While others could take, close to a year.
So there's really no magic number.
There's no magic number.
It's more.
But it's not about being perfect every day.
Yeah.
In fact, focusing on consistency over perfection is the biggest keys to success.
That's actually really encouraging.
It is.
So it's more about making small, consistent efforts over time rather than trying to change everything at once.
Yeah. Huge changes overnight. It's not going to happen.
Right. Okay. I like that a lot.
And that actually brings us to some really interesting strategies that can help us, make those small, consistent steps toward building those unbreakable habits.
Okay. I am ready to hear about these strategies.
All right.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. So one strategy that I find really effective is this idea of tiny habits, which was developed by B.J. Fogg.
Tiny habits. I like the sound of that already.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So it's based on the idea that starting ridiculously small
Okay.
can actually be the key to overcoming that initial resistance we feel
Right.
when we're trying to like establish a new habit.
Yeah, so instead of trying to change my whole diet overnight, I might start by just like adding an extra serving of veggies to dinner.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
instead of aiming for like a 30-minute workout, you
Yeah.
might start with just 1 minute.
Okay.
The key is to make it so easy
Yeah.
that you can't say no.
Yeah, that's a brilliant approach. I like that.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, makes it less daunting.
It does.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is that those tiny actions,
Yeah.
even if they seem insignificant,
Right.
can create this ripple effect.
Okay.
Once you start taking action, even in a small way,
Yeah.
you build momentum.
Okay.
You start to feel a sense of accomplishment.
Makes sense. So small wins lead to bigger wins. Okay. What other strategies do we have in the habit building toolbox?
So another really powerful technique is called habit chaining
Okay.
or habit stacking.
Okay.
It's all about linking a new habit to an existing one.
So I'm already in the habit of making my morning coffee.
Yeah.
Could I add a new habit, like right after that?
Yes.
Like reading for 5 minutes or meditating?
Exactly. You're
Okay.
basically piggybacking on the strength of an existing neural pathway.
So we're kind of like tricking our brains into adopting new behaviors
Yes.
by associating them with something we already do.
You got it.
Okay.
And by strategically stacking these habits,
Yeah.
you can create this powerful chain of positive behavior
Right.
that all reinforce each other.
Cool. I'm starting to see how these can all work together
Yeah,
to really build a strong foundation.
absolutely. And speaking of foundations,
Yeah.
let's talk about the role of your environment
Okay.
in shaping your habits.
Okay. You mean like the physical space around us.
It-
How does that play into it?
Well, it's actually more powerful than you might think.
Really?
So Kurt Lewin, who was a pioneer in social psychology, had this concept called field theory,
Okay.
which basically states that our behavior is a function of
Yeah.
both the person and their environment.
So it's not just about willpower, it's also about our surroundings.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you want to eat healthier,
Right.
make sure your kitchen is stocked with fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
If you want to read more, keep a book by your bed or on your coffee table.
It's like we're setting ourselves up for success by like removing those temptations
Exactly.
and making it easier to engage with those better behaviors.
You got it.
Okay.
Think about it like this. Your environment is constantly sending you these cues, whether you're aware of it or not.
That makes sense. So if we're surrounded by things that trigger bad habits, it's going to be harder to resist.
It's going to be a lot harder.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So by like consciously designing your environment,
Okay.
you can create a space that makes it easier to make those healthy choices.
Right.
And stick to your goals.
I think I can definitely make some changes to my environment to make it easier
You absolutely can.
to stick to my goals.
Yeah. And here's another strategy that can be really helpful.
Okay.
The 2-minute rule.
Okay. What's the 2-minute rule?
So it's really simple.
Okay.
Break down any habit into this tiny 2-minute starting point.
Okay. So instead of saying I'm going to go for a 30-minute run,
Yeah.
I'll just commit to putting on my shoes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or instead of writing a whole chapter of your book,
Right.
you just focus on writing like one paragraph.
Okay.
The goal is to make the initial step so small that it feels effortless.
I like that. It's like we're tricking our brains into getting started.
You are tricking your brain.
But-
and once you've taken that first step,
Yeah.
you're way more likely to keep going.
Okay. This is all great. But what about tracking our progress
Yes.
and rewarding ourselves?
Yes.
Does that stuff actually make a difference?
Absolutely. So visual tracking can be a really powerful motivator.
Okay.
Seeing your progress laid out in front of you, whether it's on a calendar or in a habit tracking app, or even just a simple checklist,
Right.
can really help you stay on track.
Yeah, I can see how that would be motivating. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the power of rewards.
Okay.
When you celebrate those small wins,
Right.
it just reinforces those positive associations with your new habit.
So if I manage to stick to my meditation practice for a whole week,
Yeah,
I might treat myself to a massage.
exactly.
okay.
Or a new book or something.
All right. This is all incredibly helpful. I feel a lot more confident about my habit goals now.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest.
Mhm.
I still get discouraged when I hit those roadblocks.
Yeah,
What are some common challenges that people face when they're trying to build new habits?
right.
And how can we overcome them?
So one of the biggest challenges is just feeling like you don't have enough time.
Oh, yeah.
Life gets busy.
It does.
And it's hard to squeeze something new in.
Right, but remember those tiny habits.
Exactly.
They're designed to be really quick and easy.
They are.
So you don't need huge chunks of time.
Yeah, right.
Even 5 minutes can make a difference.
Exactly. It's not about quantity.
Yeah.
It's about consistency.
Okay, consistency is key.
And another common challenge is forgetfulness.
Yes.
We're creatures of habit.
Right.
And sometimes those old neural pathways, they're just stronger.
I can relate to that. I've started new habits with the best of intentions and then totally forgotten about them a couple days later.
It happens, but there are strategies that you can use to combat that.
Okay.
Visual reminders like sticky notes or alarms on your phone.
Right. Give our brains that little nudge.
A little nudge.
What about those days when motivation just disappears? Completely gone.
You know?
Motivation is a fickle friend.
Yeah.
It comes and goes.
It does.
And relying solely on it to power your habits is a recipe for disappointment.
Right.
That's why it's so important to build systems.
Okay.
Not just rely on those fleeting feelings.
Right. So we're setting ourselves up for success by creating this ecosystem.
Yeah, ecosystem triggers.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're automating the process.
Right. Okay.
So you don't have to rely on willpower alone.
Gotcha.
And speaking of setbacks, let's not forget those.
Oh, yeah. Setbacks are definitely a part of the process.
They are.
But they can be so discouraging.
They can be, but we all stumble on the path to building these new habits.
Yeah.
The key is to, normalize those slip-ups.
Right.
And adopt what's called a never fail twice mindset.
Never fail twice. I like that.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So it's really about acknowledging that setbacks are inevitable and viewing them as learning opportunities rather than failures.
So if you miss a day at the gym, don't beat yourself up about it.
Don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track the next day.
So recognizing we're human.
Yeah.
We're not going to be perfect all the time.
Exactly.
The important thing is to learn from those mistakes and keep moving forward.
And remember those tiny habits we talked about?
Right.
Those can be a real lifesaver.
Because even if you're feeling discouraged, it's usually pretty easy to convince yourself to just do one tiny thing.
One tiny thing.
Right, and then you build momentum again.
Exactly.
This is all so inspiring.
Good.
It really feels like anyone could build unbreakable habits.
Yeah.
With the right, mindset.
Mindset and strategies.
To wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Can we talk about some real-world examples?
Yes.
Of people who've mastered this?
Of course.
I think it would be helpful for our listeners to see these principles play out in real life.
One of my favorite examples is Stephen King.
Oh, okay. The master of horror.
Yes.
He is incredibly disciplined when it comes to his writing routine.
Really? Tell me more about it.
So he writes every single day.
Wow.
Including holidays and birthdays.
Wow.
He starts at the same time in the same spot every day.
Okay.
And he aims for a certain number of words each day.
So for him, writing isn't about waiting for inspiration. It's just a habit.
It's just a habit.
Ingrained in his routine.
Ingrained in his routine, exactly.
Look at the results.
And the results.
Over 60 novels.
Over 60 novels.
And 200 short stories.
It's incredible.
That's incredible. Okay, I'm convinced routine is key.
Routine is key.
What other examples do we have?
Another great example is the Kaizen method.
Oh, I've heard of Kaizen.
Yeah.
It's all about making those small incremental improvements.
Exactly.
Over time, right.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a philosophy that's used a lot in Japanese businesses.
Yeah.
Like Toyota.
But it can also be applied to personal habits.
Right. So instead of trying to make huge changes at once, which can be really overwhelming.
Very overwhelming.
We focus on those little tweaks.
The tiny tweaks.
Over time.
Yeah.
I love that.
Small steps, big results.
Small steps, big results. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other inspiring figures come to mind?
Well, how about Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He is a prime example of how consistent habits can lead to extraordinary success.
He's accomplished some pretty incredible things.
He has, from bodybuilding champion to Hollywood action star to governor. I mean, pretty incredible.
What role did habits play in all that?
So his commitment to exercise and personal development day in and day out was a huge part of his journey.
Right.
He made it a habit to work out every day.
Wow.
Even when he was busy filming movies or campaigning.
That's amazing. It really shows that anyone can build these unbreakable habits with the right approach.
Exactly.
It's not about having, superhuman willpower or being born with a special talent.
Right.
It's about understanding how they work and then applying it.
Applying that knowledge.
I'm so glad we had this conversation.
Down too.
I feel like I've learned so much about like the science of habit formation and how to use it.
It's a fascinating topic.
It is.
And I think we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, is there like a key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that building unbreakable habits isn't about brute force or willpower.
Right.
It's about understanding your brain, working with its natural tendencies, and setting yourself up for success.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And to our listener out there, we want to leave you with a final, like, thought-provoking question. What's one tiny habit you could start today that could have a big impact on your life?
In the long run.
In the long run. So think small. Think consistent.
Consistent.
Impactful.
Impactful, yes.
Okay. We'll be right back after a quick break. All right. We're back and ready to wrap up this deep dive into the world of unbreakable habits.
Yes.
Hopefully you had some time to think about that tiny habit you want to start building.
Yeah, I'm curious, what have you come up with? Remember, it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Right.
Even something as simple as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning.
Right.
Or taking a 5-minute walk after lunch.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because I've actually been trying to drink more water.
Lately?
And I put a big water bottle on my desk.
Yeah.
And I've been making an effort to refill it throughout the day.
Good for you.
And it's amazing how much better I feel when I'm hydrated.
It makes a huge difference.
It really does. And I guess I've been kind of incorporating some of the stuff we've been talking about, like without even realizing it.
It's cool how that happens, right?
It really is. It's like I'm putting it into practice.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Setbacks.
Yeah.
They're a part of life.
They are?
And they can be tough when you're trying to, build new habits.
Especially then.
Yeah. Any final words of wisdom on how to deal with those?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that setbacks don't define you.
Okay.
They're just part of the process.
They are.
Everyone has them.
Yeah.
Even, those super successful people we were talking about.
Right. Even Stephen King has days when he doesn't want to write.
I'm sure he does.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so what makes the difference then?
I think the difference is that they don't let those setbacks derail their progress.
Okay.
They use them as opportunities to learn.
Right.
And to kind of adjust their strategies.
So it's about being resilient.
Exactly.
And having like a growth mindset.
Exactly.
It's about not letting a few missed days or slip-ups discourage you from, reaching those goals.
You got it.
Building unbreakable habits isn't about being perfect.
No.
It's about progress.
Yes.
And consistency.
Yes.
And, just being willing to keep going.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Explored the science behind habit formation.
Yes.
Talked about strategies. Heard some inspiring stories.
It's been great.
I agree. I hope our listener found this helpful and motivating.
Me too.
Building unbreakable habits is a journey.
It is.
It's not a destination.
That's right.
And it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. And the power to transform your life lies within you.
So go out there, embrace those tiny habits, and watch as they create those positive changes in your life.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.